Your Life and Sex Island, Chapter 6, The Life and Sex Island, page 215. Our little Life and Sex Island went through one depression. We, the United States, went through two Great Depressions. All of those depressions were caused by fantastic inequality and preferential tax treatment for the rich. Let us look again at our presidents. I wanted to find out, to determine what economic policies worked. Not which were good or bad, but what worked, without starting from some ideological assumption so that I would prove the assumption with which I started. I am not happy going in circles like the professional liars are. I'm going to define success as those policies which allow the economy to grow at a steady pace and bring the greatest happiness to the greatest number of Americans. I start with one assumption. I have lived over 3/4 of a century. The best, most prosperous times were those times just after World War II. What were the puppeteers doing that made the show work? With that in mind, here again is a list of presidents from the Great War, now known as the First World War, to almost the present, from before the First Great Depression to the Second Great Depression. The Second Great Depression would have been as bad as the first if we didn't have Social Security, workman's comp, unemployment insurance, and other social programs put in place after the last Great Depression. Don't let anyone tell you, as professional liars will constantly, that socialism is all bad. Note which presidents were in office just before the First Great Depression and the Second Great Depression. Note which were there during the gravy days. Then we'll look at the list of presidents which we rated according to their success at making this a better working, not holier, better working country. We rated the presidents according to TX, the highest incremental tax, union membership, GDP, per capita production or gross domestic product. Were these and the other factors listed below going up or down just before the two Great Depressions? Were they headed up or down in and before the healthy economic periods? Not what do my theories say, not what is holy, rather what works. Also, we rated according to G, the Gini coefficient, which measures inequality with low numbers being greater equality and high numbers being worse inequality. 1%, the percent of income taken by the top 1% of earners, and PD, public debt as a percentage of GDP, gross domestic product. Just a note about what the columns are. The first four, N, INT, YE, and P, identify the president and his administration. The next three, TX, UM, GDP, are factors which, if they increase, create success. The next three, G, 1%, and PD, if they decrease, they indicate success. The next column, SCR, is the arithmetic score for that president and his policies. The last, R, is the rating of the president and his administration, number one being the worst. Note too that TX, UM, and 1% and PD are controllable directly or indirectly by the president and Congress, and that GDP and G are the direct result of those actions or policies. So far, I have done absolutely the minimal touching of the numbers. They are almost exactly as found in the wild, but the variation in one column, maximum differential tax rate, is almost 7.5 times as large as that in another column, the Gini coefficient. So I stretched the shorter ones so that they would be as tall as the longer ones. But it is still just straight arithmetic. I don't believe that I am fondling here. I am just making all of the numbers comparable. What I do to one, I do to all. With these new scores and ratings, I am just going to list the presidents in order of worst to best. There's the famous story of Hoover asking Andrew Mellon for a nickel to call a friend, and Mellon says, "Here's a dime, call them both." The pop history umpire gives Hoover a really bad call. That was no strike. That was a home run. He comes into office and there is already a tower of people with no money, and standing on top of them are a few people with hundreds of millions of dollars, and the tower is starting to fall. And it does fall shortly, less than 9 months after he takes the oath. If you look at the number, he is doing almost everything that he can to rebuild the tower on a solid base, but he cannot quickly undo the ruinous inequalities of his immediate predecessors, Warren G. Harding, Calvin Coolidge, and indeed especially the Treasury Secretary, Andrew Mellon. Poor Herbie, the pop history has thrown him under the bus. He tries to stop the avalanches, but he is inundated putting up snow fences. Pop history has snowed him under. With Wilson, we are coming out of the Great War, and the economy is returning to normal. He does things right to get the economy back on a strong peacetime footing. FDR benefits from some of the things that Hoover has already done, and he does continue along the path of economic enlightenment. The next four in rank, JFK, LBJ, and HST, and DDE, in historical order, they're Truman, Eisenhower, Kennedy, and Johnson, hold pretty much to the path following from FDR. And we have a great period of steady growth and prosperity from, say, 1945 to 1969. 24 years. But if you look at the charts of various factors, we are slowly but steadily heading in the wrong direction, to the point where we are today with a very sick economy and millions of Americans in financial trouble and vast inequality, with the money tower top-heavy and teetering. I am letting the numbers speak. It is not me speaking. Coolidge and Reagan are both in danger of being canonized by pro-slavery groups. Reagan already has the nimbus glow. 20 years or so ago, I went through the Reagan Library with a couple of my granddaughters. I think that they called it a library, even though he was not a reader, except astrological charts. The building is located in California. I believe it is in Semi or Simi Valley. He was credited with everything good in history, and he put up a heroic fight against the czars and mullahs or something like that. Anyway, he single-handedly defeated all of the evil forces in the world. Ronnie always confused his acting roles with real life, and apparently his pro-slavery biographers are also confused. So what do we know for sure? Slavery is not a good economic system. Not because it is good or bad. All of the moneyed religions have almost always supported it, but because, from an engineering standpoint, it doesn't work. We know for sure that there are mighty forces moving us in that direction, toward a slave economy, in the hands of people who will prove that it is far better than fairness and equality. They no doubt know that they are wrong and don't give a damn. The pay is good and they have no honor. Damn, I have to stop again. Please purchase the book, Your Life in Sex Island, by clicking the link in the description below.